Imagine waking up one day, but the world around you seems muffled, distant, as if the sounds of your life have been muted. The weight of your own thoughts presses down upon you, and even in the solitude of the morning, there is a palpable unease in the air, a disquiet that refuses to be ignored. As you lie there staring at the ceiling, you feel the most paradoxical sensation. Everything around you seems perfectly normal, yet nothing feels right. The world continues on as usual, but your inner world, it is in turmoil. What if the greatest danger to your peace isn't a sudden storm, a tragic event, or a violent outburst, but a slow, steady unraveling that happens without your conscious awareness? What if your very mind, your thoughts, your emotions, are quietly eroding the foundation of your inner peace? Piece by piece, with each passing day, you sit up, trying to shake off the nagging sense of discomfort. You look out the window, sunshine, a clear sky, but you don't feel the warmth. Something inside you has been hollowed out, leaving behind a quiet chaos that you can't pinpoint, but that you cannot escape. You've heard the term inner peace 1,000 times. You've even tried to seek it, perhaps by meditating, by pursuing goals, or by numbing yourself with distractions. But what if the pursuit of inner peace itself has been a trap? What if, by chasing after it with all your energy, you've inadvertently been sacrificing it? What if true peace doesn't come from external accomplishments or mindfulness practices, but from confronting the invisible forces that silently destroy it from within? The unsettling truth is that most of us are living in a state of quiet destruction. The world is loud, demanding, filled with distractions, and yet it is the subtle, almost imperceptible forces within ourselves, our anxieties, unresolved wounds, and the expectations we place upon ourselves that chip away at the very essence of our peace. We think we are in control, but deep inside, the internal war rages on. Have you ever wondered why you find it so hard to relax, even when there's nothing overtly wrong? Why, despite your achievements and your ability to tick off every box on the list of success, there's still a gnawing feeling of unease? Why, no matter how much you try to let go, your mind remains cluttered, your heart restless, and your soul disconnected? This is not a random occurrence. This is the quiet destruction of your inner peace, occurring silently, unannounced, like a shadow creeping across a sunlit room. And what's worse is that you might not even realize it until it's too late, until the damage is so deep that peace feels like a distant memory. How did this happen? What is causing the corrosion of your inner world? More importantly, how can you even begin to stop it when it's so deeply embedded in the very fabric of your being? The question that haunts you now is, how do you reclaim peace in a world that's silently taking it from you? It's time to look deeper, to explore the roots of this destruction, and to confront the quiet forces that have been working against you from within. But before we can understand how to fight this battle, we must first acknowledge the most uncomfortable truth. The destruction of your inner peace may not be coming from the outside world at all. It may be you. The quiet destruction of your inner peace does not stem from the obvious, those loud, chaotic events that we so often blame for our unhappiness. It comes from a far more insidious source, the subconscious mechanisms that shape our thoughts, behaviors, and emotions in ways we barely notice. These forces are deeply embedded within us, so subtle that they almost feel like part of who we are. But in reality, they are silent saboteurs working to undermine the very peace we crave. This phenomenon, this erosion of peace, is not a new one. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche and Carl Jung spoke about it in the context of human nature and the internal conflict we all face. Nietzsche famously said that He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. But perhaps the greatest monster of all isn't external. It is the monster within, a shadow that lurks in the depths of your psyche, influencing everything you do and which, if left unchecked, will slowly consume your inner peace. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, described this monster as the shadow, the darker, unconscious part of ourselves that we are too afraid to confront. The shadow consists of all the parts of our personality that we repress or deny because they are too uncomfortable or unacceptable. Our fears, our insecurities, our guilt, these things are often buried so deep within that we don't even realize how much power they hold over us. But they are there, quietly dictating our actions, reactions, and interactions with the world. Imagine the anxiety that builds when you push down your true feelings, when you refuse to confront your fear of failure or your fear of not being enough. These suppressed emotions don't disappear, they fester, shaping the way you view the world, the way you react to challenges, and the way you respond to others. Each time you avoid or repress these feelings, your inner peace slips just a little further away. But it's not just about the unconscious mind. Our modern culture, with its emphasis on productivity, success, and external validation, plays a significant role in this quiet destruction. Jean-Paul Sartre's existential philosophy sheds light on this reality, suggesting that modern society's obsession with doing rather than being has created an atmosphere of constant striving. We are encouraged to perform, achieve, and accumulate, never allowing ourselves the space to just be. The result? Anxiety, stress, and a profound sense of emptiness that no amount of success can fill. Sartre argued that we are condemned to be free, that our freedom, while a gift, also comes with the burden of responsibility. We are free to make choices, but in a world where success is measured by external metrics, the choices we make are often dictated by societal pressures. The existential weight of this freedom leads to a feeling of being trapped in a cycle of perpetual striving, unable to experience true peace. This psychological pressure manifests itself in various ways. The pursuit of perfectionism, for example, is a direct result of societal and internal expectations. Arthur Schopenhauer, known for his philosophy of pessimism, argued that human beings are driven by an insatiable will to live, a ceaseless striving that is never satisfied. This relentless desire for more success, more recognition, more achievements, never allows us to find true contentment. As we chase after external rewards, we neglect the internal peace that can only be found by confronting and accepting the shadows within. Take, for example, the insidious presence of addiction. We often think of addiction in terms of substances, but it is much broader than that. Addiction can manifest in the need for validation, the need to stay constantly busy, the need to consume endlessly, whether through food, entertainment, or shopping. The truth is, our addictions stem from a deep and uncomfortable emptiness within us, one that we try to fill with external distractions. This compulsion to consume, whether physically or emotionally, keeps us in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction. Each time we try to escape ourselves, we move further away from the peace we seek. But the problem runs even deeper. Our inability to experience peace is also a result of the cognitive biases that shape the way we view the world. The negativity bias, for instance, is the brain's tendency to focus more on negative experiences than positive ones. This instinctive focus on threats and problems keeps us locked in a state of heightened alertness, preventing us from enjoying the present moment and the peace that comes with it. Every negative experience, every failure, gets amplified in our minds, leading to an emotional and psychological environment that is anything but peaceful. Our cultural conditioning, too, plays a pivotal role. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World warned us about the dangers of a society that numbs its citizens into complacency. In today's world, where constant entertainment, social media, and consumerism are distractions designed to keep us from thinking too deeply, we have become disconnected from our inner selves. We have traded genuine introspection for surface-level distractions, and in doing so, we have allowed the quiet destruction of our inner peace to take root. This destruction is insidious because it happens so slowly. At first, it's just a fleeting feeling of unease, a mild irritation that fades as quickly as it comes. But over time, these small moments accumulate. The sense of disconnection, the inability to truly relax, the constant striving for something more. These feelings, if left unchecked, grow into something much larger. Your inner peace, once strong, becomes fragile, and before you know it, it's gone altogether. But here's the most unsettling part of it all. You may not even realize it's happening. The forces that erode your peace are subtle, and you've become so accustomed to living with this quiet chaos that you may think it's normal. Your mind, conditioned by years of societal pressure, psychological repression, and internal struggle, may have tricked you into believing that this is just the way life is supposed to be. So, what can be done? How do we begin to untangle the web of internal conflict that has quietly destroyed our peace? The answer, as we'll explore, requires looking at these problems from a radically different perspective, one that challenges everything you thought you knew about peace, success, and inner fulfillment. But to understand how to break free, we must first look at the unseen consequences of this destruction and how deeply it has shaped the lives we live today. Imagine you're walking through life, one foot in front of the other, checking off tasks and goals, believing that everything you're doing is leading to something greater. But underneath this surface of daily activities, something profound is happening. You're quietly drowning. Your inner peace is slipping away. Not in a dramatic moment, but in the most mundane of ways. It's like being caught in a riptide. You don't even realize you're being pulled under until it's almost too late. The unseen consequences of the quiet destruction of your inner peace are far more insidious than most people understand. It's not just a matter of feeling anxious or restless occasionally. This gradual erosion touches every aspect of your existence, subtly influencing the way you interact with others, perceive yourself, and experience the world. It shapes your reality in ways that you may never notice until you take a step back and truly examine how far you've drifted. One of the most immediate consequences is the way your relationships begin to suffer. Have you ever noticed how you can be surrounded by people, even those you love deeply, and yet still feel utterly alone? This isn't just about physical isolation, it's a deep emotional isolation that arises when you're disconnected from your true self. As Carl Jung would argue, the unconscious mind governs much of our behavior, and the parts of ourselves that we deny or repress, our fears, our unresolved anger, our past wounds, inevitably spill over into our interactions. How often do you find yourself reacting disproportionately to situations, whether it's snapping at a loved one or feeling a gnawing jealousy towards someone else's success? These outbursts aren't random. They are the result of deep internal conflict, of unresolved inner chaos, The anxiety, the suppressed emotions, and the unhealed wounds that you carry inside are always there, influencing your reactions without you even realizing it. But it's not just your interactions with others that are affected. The quiet destruction of your inner peace also changes the way you experience your own mind. The persistent undercurrent of stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction becomes a constant hum in the background of your thoughts, even when you're not consciously aware of it. It's like living with a low-grade fever. It doesn't completely incapacitate you, but it wears you down over time, draining your energy, focus, and motivation. This constant state of unease, combined with your conditioned habits, creates a cycle of self-doubt and self-criticism. You look at your life and wonder why you still feel empty, despite all your accomplishments. Why do you feel like you're still chasing something, even when there's nothing left to chase? You've achieved what society says you should, but peace has eluded you. This is the quiet consequence of living a life that is disconnected from your true self, your values, and your deeper purpose. Society teaches you to chase external validation, to compete, to perform. But as Viktor Frankl, the existential psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, pointed out, in man's search for meaning, the pursuit of meaning rather than success is what truly allows us to experience peace. Without this deeper sense of purpose, life becomes an endless series of distractions, a hollow race toward goals that don't fulfill us. And this emptiness, this existential vacuum, becomes the backdrop of your life, subtly guiding your every move. The cognitive biases at play in this unseen destruction are powerful. For example, consider the availability heuristic, the mental shortcut that causes you to judge the likelihood of an event based on how easily examples come to mind. In modern society, we are constantly bombarded with images of success, beauty, and happiness. But the more we are exposed to these ideals, the more we begin to measure our worth against them. We internalize these external standards, forgetting that peace doesn't come from fulfilling a societal checklist. As a result, we live in a constant state of comparison, judging ourselves against impossible ideals and feeling inadequate when we inevitably fall short. Then there's the confirmation bias, our tendency to look for evidence that supports our existing beliefs. If you already believe that you are unworthy of peace, that you must constantly strive to prove your worth, your mind will selectively filter out any information that contradicts that belief. This reinforces the cycle of inner turmoil, as you are never able to see yourself as enough, just as you are. You remain locked in a mental prison, unable to break free from the constant need to prove yourself. But perhaps the most damaging consequence of all is the impact this internal chaos has on your ability to truly be present. It is no coincidence that one of the greatest challenges to peace in the modern world is the inability to live in the present moment. We are constantly pulled away from the here and now by thoughts of the past, anxieties about the future, and the endless stream of information and distractions that society feeds us. The constant mental clutter, your worries, your regrets, your aspirations, keeps you from truly experiencing life as it unfolds. You miss the simple beauty of a moment because your mind is preoccupied with everything else. This leads to an experience of life that is fragmented, shallow, and disconnected, further eroding your peace. But what is the true cost of this? The consequences extend beyond just the mental and emotional spheres. The quiet destruction of your inner peace also leads to physical symptoms. Chronic stress, anxiety, and the emotional strain of living in conflict with yourself often manifest in the body. headaches, fatigue, digestive issues, even heart disease. Your mind and body are intricately connected, and the emotional and psychological unrest you experience has a tangible effect on your health. This is why the consequences of living without inner peace are so devastating. They don't just remain confined to your thoughts. They seep into your interactions, your health, your sense of fulfillment. They shape every moment of your life until peace feels like an unreachable dream. But this isn't just a matter of a few bad habits or poor decisions. The problem is much deeper. It's ingrained in the way you've been taught to live, in the way you've been conditioned to believe that peace is something to be attained rather than something to be nurtured from within. So, what happens when you finally wake up to this quiet destruction? When you realize that peace isn't something external, but something that has been eroded over time by forces within your own mind. And more importantly, how can you begin to reclaim it when everything around you and inside you seems to be working against you? In the next section, we will uncover the rebellion, the radical shift in perspective needed to break free from the destructive cycle and find true peace within yourself. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast precipice, feeling the wind against your face as you peer into the unknown. For years you've been circling this point, afraid to leap, afraid to let go of the familiar chains that have kept you tethered, the familiar fears, doubts, and distractions that have quietly destroyed your inner peace feel like old companions. But now, as you stare into the abyss, you realize that the only way forward is to break free. What if the very solution to your inner chaos lies not in escaping it, but in embracing it, confronting the internal war rather than avoiding it? What if peace isn't something that can be obtained by achieving more, by fixing yourself, or by numbing the pain? What if it requires something much deeper, a rebellion against everything you've been taught, against the very forces that have kept you enslaved in your own mind? This is the radical shift in perspective that is necessary to break free from the quiet destruction of your inner peace. It's not about achieving more external success or following a formula for happiness. It's about reclaiming your autonomy from the internal forces that shape your reality without your consent. It's about confronting your own shadow, not as an enemy to be defeated, but as an aspect of yourself that must be integrated and understood. Carl Jung's concept of individuation provides a powerful framework for this rebellion. Individuation is the process of integrating the unconscious with the conscious mind, of embracing all aspects of yourself, your fears, your flaws, your darkness, and allowing them to coexist in harmony. This process is not easy, nor is it comfortable. It requires deep self-awareness, a willingness to confront the parts of yourself you've avoided, and the courage to embrace the whole of who you are. But here's the catch. Most people are afraid of the shadow because it represents everything they wish to avoid. It embodies our fears, our shame, and the things we've been taught to deny. Society, with its emphasis on achievement and external validation, constantly pushes us to reject our imperfections, to strive for a version of ourselves that is flawless and always in control. But this rejection of the shadow is precisely what perpetuates the destruction of our inner peace. True freedom comes when you stop running from the parts of yourself that terrify you. Instead, you start to accept them, to understand them. This is the rebellion. It's not about fighting against the external world or conforming to its expectations. It's about resisting the internal programming that has led you to believe that peace comes only through perfection, through constant striving, or through external validation. You must rebel against the very notion that peace is something you can earn. Peace, in its purest form, is something that exists naturally within you, but it requires deep self-acceptance and inner stillness to recognize. But how do you do this in a world that constantly pulls you in the opposite direction? How do you break free when you've spent a lifetime living by rules that don't serve you? The first step in this rebellion is recognizing the limitations of the society you've been conditioned by. Friedrich Nietzsche, in his critique of modernity, warned us about the dangers of becoming what he called herd animals. The pressure to conform to societal expectations, to live up to the ideals that others set for us, creates a sense of internal conflict. It forces us to suppress our individuality, to fit into molds that we were never meant to occupy. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch, the overman or superman, challenges us to transcend these limitations and create our own values. It's a radical act of rebellion against the expectations imposed on us, a refusal to live according to the dictates of others. To truly break free, you must ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped caring about what society thinks? What if you were able to break away from the cycle of validation seeking, from the endless pursuit of success that is always just out of reach? The answer lies in redefining your own sense of self-worth, not based on external achievements, but on a deeper understanding of who you are at your core. But the rebellion doesn't stop there. It's not enough to reject societal norms and expectations. You must also rebel against the part of yourself that keeps you trapped in the cycle of self-doubt and criticism. This inner critic, the voice that tells you you're not good enough, that you're always falling short, must be silenced. This is where the real power lies. Not in fighting against the world, but in fighting against the negative narratives you've internalized about yourself. The key to breaking free from this cycle is radical self-compassion. This doesn't mean indulging in complacency or avoiding responsibility. It means acknowledging that you are worthy of peace, even with all your imperfections. It means accepting that the journey to peace is not linear, and that it's okay to fall, to fail, and to struggle. These experiences are not the enemy. They are the very things that allow you to grow and evolve. Gabor Mate, a renowned expert in addiction and trauma, has spoken extensively about how our early life experiences shape our emotional and psychological well-being. He argues that much of our inner unrest stems from unresolved trauma, from the ways we've learned to cope with emotional pain through unhealthy habits. Breaking free from this cycle requires a willingness to face these painful memories, to work through the trauma, and to heal the wounds that have been festering for so long. But healing doesn't happen through avoidance or numbing. It happens through acceptance and integration. This is where the true rebellion begins, when you stop running from your past, from your fears, from your shadow, and instead you stand face to face with them. When you can embrace all of yourself, both light and dark, you begin to reclaim your inner peace. The process of rebellion is not a one-time event. It's a continuous journey of self-discovery, self-acceptance, and self-empowerment. It's a commitment to rejecting the lies you've been told about who you should be and embracing the truth of who you are. Only then can you truly break free from the forces that have quietly destroyed your inner peace. This rebellion isn't about seeking perfection. It's about understanding that peace is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. It's not a destination. It's a state of being. A state that you create by refusing to be at war with yourself any longer. As you stand on the precipice, looking out into the unknown, you realize that the leap you've been avoiding is not into a void, but into a place where true freedom and peace reside. The rebellion begins the moment you stop fighting for perfection. and start embracing your perfectly imperfect self. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the summit of a mountain, the vast landscape stretching endlessly before you. As you take in the view, something profound shifts within you. You realize that all the struggles, the endless pursuits, and the internal battles you fought were not just distractions. They were the very lessons you needed to learn. You understand now that peace was never something to be achieved, something to be earned, or something to be found in the external world. It was always within you, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to be embraced. The deepest truth, the ultimate realization is this: your inner peace is not something you need to strive for. It is something you need to let go of all your illusions to rediscover. The chaos, the conflict, the dissatisfaction, they were never your true state. They were the result of the stories you've been telling yourself, the beliefs you've internalized, and the battles you fought with both the world and your own mind. In this moment of clarity, everything falls into place. The incessant need for approval, the anxiety about failure, the constant drive to be better, smarter, and more accomplished, it all dissolves. The weight of perfectionism, which once seemed like a heavy cloak that you were doomed to wear, falls away. For the first time, you realize that peace is not a state of doing, but of being. This realization is not a fleeting thought. It is a profound shift in consciousness. It is the awareness that all your efforts to escape the chaos within were rooted in the very misunderstanding that peace could be attained through action, through external achievement, or through conformity. You've been conditioned to believe that peace is something outside of you, something that must be earned or arrived at. The truth, however, is that peace is inherent in your very being. It is your natural state. But here lies the paradox. In your attempts to find peace, you have only buried it deeper. The pursuit of peace through perfectionism, through achievement, or through external validation was never the answer. Peace was always there, hidden beneath the layers of fear, self-doubt, and societal expectations. The moment you stop chasing it, stop clinging to the idea that it's something to be attained, is the moment you experience it. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He believed that true inner peace and wholeness can only be found by confronting the unconscious mind, by integrating the shadow. This process of individuation, of becoming the whole self, requires that you stop resisting the parts of you that you have been taught to reject. When you embrace your flaws, your vulnerabilities, and your imperfections, you begin to align with your authentic self, and in that alignment, peace arises naturally. This is not an easy realization. In fact, it may be the most difficult truth to confront, because it means acknowledging that you have been, in many ways, the very force that has kept your peace at arm's length. It means realizing that your constant striving, your need to be better, your fear of failure, and your obsession with external success were all distractions, defense mechanisms that kept you from facing the deeper, more uncomfortable truths about yourself. But in this understanding, there is immense power. For the first time, you realize that the very thing you've been searching for has been inside you all along. You were never incomplete. You were never broken. The chaos you've been feeling, it wasn't your natural state. It was the result of trying to be someone you weren't, of chasing something outside of yourself that could never fulfill you. The ultimate truth is this: your inner peace is not a goal. It is a return to who you truly are. It is the acceptance that you are enough, just as you are, without the need for validation or approval. It is the recognition that peace comes from embracing your own humanity, with all its flaws, contradictions, and complexities. Once you accept this truth, something shifts. You begin to see life with new eyes. Eyes that are no longer clouded by the fear of not being enough or the anxiety of striving for an elusive ideal. You begin to experience the world in a different way. Instead of reacting to every challenge with tension or anxiety, you approach life with a sense of calm, a knowing that you are whole, that you are enough. This doesn't mean that life suddenly becomes perfect. It doesn't mean you will never face difficulties, challenges, or setbacks. But it does mean that you will face them differently. You will no longer be at war with yourself, trying to prove something to the world or to your own mind. You will simply be, and in that being there is peace. What's more, when you embrace this peace, you begin to radiate it outward. The calm that you cultivate within yourself becomes contagious. Your relationships become deeper, more authentic, because you no longer bring your fears and insecurities into every interaction. You are free to love and connect without the weight of needing approval or validation. This is the ultimate shift. This is the ultimate freedom. When you stop looking outside of yourself for peace, when you stop trying to fix what is already whole, you reclaim your inner world. And in that reclamation, you find peace. So as you stand at the precipice looking out over the vast expanse of your life, know that the leap is not into the unknown, it is a leap into yourself. The peace you seek is not somewhere out there in the world waiting to be found. It is already within you, waiting to be embraced. It is not a destination to be reached, but a state of being to be experienced. The quiet destruction of your inner peace was never your fault. It was the result of a life lived in fear, distraction, and misunderstanding. But now you have the power to change that. You have the power to reclaim your peace, to let go of the illusions, and to embrace the truth of who you are. And in doing so, you will finally experience the peace that has always been waiting for you.